Call to order the meeting of the Finance Subcommittee of Utility Service Board. We have the three members of the Finance Committee present, and we're eager to hear the budget presentation for 2021, and I'm not sure who's going to do the heavy lifting.
Vic.
It'll be Vic and Laura talking about it. Thank you for being able to be here for the subcommittee meeting. Our objective today is to go over the budget memo in general terms that we provided that's been provided to the mayor's office and the controller. It includes the first draft of the numbers. The numbers will not be finalized until at least another week or two. The calendar for the budget hearings has been changed. We will be meeting on the 20th of August with council. I don't know whether that will be a Zoom meeting or in person. That will be the night of our budget hearing, and we will be needing to, the schedule as we've set it up here gives us the opportunity to present this material again to the subcommittee to respond to any questions or issues that you may raise today. We'll be able to respond to those and have another subcommittee meeting on the 3rd, just prior to the regular board meeting. We can present it that night, and we could either have it voted that night or on the 17th and still be in time for our budget. Is that right, Laura? So that's basically where we are in the calendar. I'm going to introduce, hit some high points from the introductory portion of the memo. We'll share this with all the board members, of course, and we'll be able to continue this discussion as we go forward. So I figured I'd talk for a few minutes, and then Laura will talk about numbers for a few minutes, and then we can do just a broad question and answer. Does that work for you, Jim?
Yep, that works fine.
Okay. So this year, our budget is very similar to what it was last year in terms of structure and the objectives. We're just farther along on a lot of these initiatives. Overall, our goals for the year can be grouped into 6 general categories. The first one is wastewater treatment modernization and capacity improvements. As you know, the big project at Dillman to upgrade a lot of equipment and modernize the plant is underway. That project will take a couple of years to complete, but it is underway. So we'll be talking about it more in the future, month by month. As you know, we will be eventually bringing a bond to pay a portion of the cost of that project. A lot of that project will be paid for out of cash or on a pay-as-you-go basis, but we also will be bonding for part of that project as well. Water quality, as always, water quality for drinking water is one of our highest priorities in terms of project work and the initiatives that we're undergoing. We've continued to work on reducing disinfection byproducts with goals of being right around 2/3 of the standards. We have been able to do that pretty consistently month by month, and we're having our team at the plant is doing a terrific job of managing disinfection byproduct formation. One of the issues we've had has been that algae started growing in the basins, especially in the summer, which reduced the length of time that we could run our filters, which meant that we were doing a lot more backwashing, which wastes water, energy, and chemicals. This year in February, we started a pilot study for using a chemical algicide to control the algal growth. That initiative is going very well at this point. We're far ahead of where we were last year. So we're excited about the way that's proceeding, and we will be continuing to do water quality improvement projects, capital improvements at the plant to help us do a better job of managing that. We've continued to operate our water main replacement program. It's been $1.7 million annually. We've been replacing about 2.5 miles of water mains per year, and we will be continuing that program. The stormwater utility, we're getting ready to do the big project once all the land acquisition and the issues with utility relocations are dealt with. We'll be moving forward with bonding for the Jordan River Tunnel, and that will hopefully be later this year. We're also working hard to bring green infrastructure elements into the way we do stormwater in Bloomington and do a better job of that. And that effort is growing all the time, and we're very pleased with the progress we're making there. Process modernization also is underway all through the organization to improve the way we execute our daily work. This is including things like writing standard operating procedures for all the different activities we do at CBU, but it's also our asset management program, which is in the early stages of being implemented now. The laboratory information system will be hopefully being deployed later this year after the SCADA improvements that are currently in process are complete. So all of these things will make us more efficient, make it possible for us to more effectively use data to make decisions, and overall improve our operations. We've also just begun deploying tablet computers for some of our staff. Right now, it's the assistant superintendents in T&D. So rather than having a desktop and a laptop, they'll have a tablet that they can use for everything, including GIS, because our new GIS system is also part of all of these modernizations. So that initiative is basically touching everything we do. And I didn't even talk about advanced metering infrastructure. That project is nearing completion, and that also just revolutionizes the way we do a lot of things, from billing to other management activities. So these are all big deals. The last category I want to talk about a little bit is climate action. The city is really pushing climate action as overall. CBU always is, because everything we do has an environmental impact. And we do continue to track things. The renovations that we're doing at Dillman could save us up to 15% or so of our electrical consumption for the aeration process. That's a big deal. We're also continuing our efforts to study the potential for a waste to energy initiative. We're working with Solid Waste District and the Economic and Sustainable Development Department and Public Works to work on that, to that analysis. So that will be continuing. Also, things like, and something we're trying to point out is things like the disinfection byproduct work that we're doing and the addition of an algicide. It takes around 250,000 gallons of water that's already been treated to backwash a filter. It's more often, so every time we backwash a filter, it costs us around $750. So reducing the number of times we have to backwash far more than pays for the algicide removal, but it also has a significant carbon emission impact. So everything we do affects climate, and we're paying attention to it all through our organization. I think the last thing, of course, is on the list here is economic sustainability. We've done some work in the last 2 years refinancing all of our bonding that we possibly could to save us money for debt service. And we continue to work on a rate case for water that we expect to bring to the council and the board in the first quarter of 2021 with hope, and hopefully we'll have it approved by IURC by the end of 2021. So I'll let Laura dig into the details a little bit more, and thank you so much for listening.
Vic, could I ask a question?
Sure.
you talked a little bit about the smart metering being finished in August. What are the plans for the date when the ratepayers will be able to access their own usage, and will there be an education component to that?
Yes, there will. We expect to deploy the customer portal in the third and fourth quarter of 2020. We're going to be doing a lot of outreach through social media and bill inserts and so forth. I'm recruiting. I'm hoping we can involve people at City Hall and in demonstrating and learning how to use the system. Holly has been looking into what we need to do the training, and so we'll be working on that over the next couple of months. Laura, do you know the date we were going to roll that out? Have we set a date?
We had originally, and we were having our kickoff meetings right when COVID hit, so it got delayed a little bit. So we're aiming for September. One of the benefits of waiting until September, October is that the meters will all be in. So when we start, we won't have people trying to sign up for it who haven't had their meter changed out yet. So we're about 1,000 to 1,500 meters shy of having all of the meters changed over. And then we'll just be working on any errant meters that we couldn't get it through the first time. So right around September is when we're shooting for.
Okay, thank you.
So Laura, I'll leave it to you to talk about the numbers.
Okay. So you should have received a copy of the 2021 budget memo to the mayor. At the top of it, there is a table that has our revenues for the year for 2021. We anticipate about an overall 7% decrease in revenues. This is based off of where we're at now during this pandemic and the trends that we've seen. We looked at each month in 2020. One of the nice things about doing this process a little bit later in the year is I had 6 months of data to work from. So we have seen a decrease from COVID. It has been offset by the advanced metering project. So it wasn't as bad as it could have been. If this had happened a year ago, we would have been in a much different state. So in water, we're seeing about a 7.75% decrease, and that equals about $1.4 million. In sewer, we're seeing a $1.5 million decrease, and that's about 6%. And then in stormwater, it's just a small decrease, about 2%, so 94,000. So as we build the budget, we first look at what we think our revenues are going to be, and then we move, and then our revenues are always equal to our expenses. So when we have a decrease, then we'll see our expense budget equal the same amount. So I have been working with our controller's office. We are still waiting on some pieces of information, so that's why the budget isn't complete. They haven't given us personnel numbers yet. So I took this year's numbers and I gave a 1% increase, just a modest increase, just to cover anything that I think is going to happen. I know that some of our union folks will be due for increase, but we don't know what's going to happen with non-union folks. So that's kind of a placeholder there. Once I get final numbers, I'll go back in and recalculate everything. Another area that we're still waiting for more information on is our fleet expenses. We have a pretty large fleet, so they submit their budget to the controller's office, and then they tell us what our piece is. We've received the numbers for our fuel set rate, but not for the actual maintenance part of our fleet. So once I have those two pieces of information, I'll go back through, and where we'll see that hit an offset is usually in the extensions and replacements budget. So that number will go up or down depending on what happens with category 100 or category 300. So personnel or extensions and replacements. We have seen some decreases in our bonding expenses based off of the refunding activities that we've been doing over the last year. So there's been some decreases there, which helped free up some cash. And other than that, we've just, I think another larger expense is we have postponed our water rate case. So if we're going to bring it to council in January, first quarter next year, there's some budget expenses listed in the budget there as well. Are there any questions so far? And I was very tired when I put this together yesterday. So this afternoon, I'm going to be going through and making sure all the numbers match. So I apologize. It is a draft. And we're meeting with the mayor's office tomorrow to go through our numbers. And so if they have anything they want to see changed, then there may be some tweaks there. But I don't overall foresee it to be drastically different from where we're at here. It's going to be pretty close.
I'm sorry. So I guess, are there any questions in general or any details that you've identified so far? We're moving a little earlier this year. We've been trying to move this up a little bit earlier with getting to the subcommittee because of it just makes things more conversational, gives us more time to get back and forth from you all with your suggestions. So.
Vic, I did have one more thing to add. Sorry, I forgot to note it down. We have increased our customer assistance program, also known as CAP, and that was at $45,000 for this year. We've moved up to $50,000 for next year. And if we find that we're butting up against it, which we're not this year, so I think we're going to be okay. But if we do find that we are butting up against it, we could come back to the board and ask for additional funding there. So.
Yes.
Amanda?
I just wanted to confirm too, right after that bullet point, you have the residential stormwater grant program, and we're allocating $75,000. Is that, I can't remember, is that the same amount as last year? We did not increase that, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Should be 70.
Should be 70.
Oh, because it says 75 in the memo.
I'll fix that. I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not an increase. That's staying flat.
That's right.
So, yeah, Jean?
Yeah, I'm just curious with the whole COVID thing and layoffs and economic disruption. Have we seen any sort of an increase in requests for financial assistance for utility bills that might be getting overdue? People can't pay them. And do we expect going forward, however long this stupid thing lasts, that we might need to increase the amount in that program?
So we have definitely seen an increase of overdue or delinquent accounts. We normally have about 1,000 delinquent accounts at any given time, and that's accounts that are 2 months overdue. So where it's normally 1,000 right now, it's about 3,000. And we're seeing those mostly in zones 3 and 4, I believe. So we've been targeting those zones, putting door hangers, reaching out to people, trying to get them to even make a small payment if they can, and reach out to CAP and get CAP funding. That CAP funding is not managed by us, and it has a set of rules around it that have been in place. I think they work through hand. We have seen, it's been an increase in requests for funding, but we're not hitting any kind of, we're not going over where we thought we would be. So we still have, I think we haven't even spent half of the budget for it yet this year. So we don't anticipate that unless something goes crazy in the fall, we should be right on target.
Okay. And I guess I'm also wondering the requirements for the funding through CAP. Are those requirements that fit the times now with unexpected job losses and, other kinds of financial hardships coming along with it?
I believe so, because it's based on income.
Yeah, it's income based. I think the one place where we might want to have a conversation, but we're not there yet. The way the system works is you can ask for assistance in up to 2 consecutive months, and then you have to go 4 months before you could ask for assistance again.
Mhm.
Practically speaking, that means someone could get assistance for 4 months out of a year.
Mhm.
Um, uh, if we find that we're getting a lot of people who are getting up against that and still unable to pay bills after 2 months of assistance, that may be a place where we would be coming to the board asking to revise the rules that we use for that. Up to now, we haven't had the groundswell of requests that would suggest that we're in that spot quite yet. We have no way of knowing whether the 3,000, having 3,000 people in arrears instead of 1,000 in arrears, we have no way of knowing how much of that is because of inability to pay and how much of it is just because they didn't get a disconnect notice, and continue to let it go. My guess is there's a mixture, and I don't know how that mixture works out. So that's why we're really redoubling our efforts to reach out to people who are in arrears, to both encourage people who can afford to pay to go ahead and pay, and to identify people who do need assistance so that we can help them out through the cap or through payment plans.
Mm.
But if we have a lot of them are just people who are letting their bills build up, I fear we're going to be doing a lot of payment plans when the governor's order is lifted. So we really are redoubling our efforts to reach out to people who are delinquent, because it definitely affects our cash flow.
Vic and Laura, it seems to me that more than any normal year, there's a whole lot of uncertainty when it comes to the budget. We do know some things, however. Now, IU could easily change what they're going to do, but as of now, there will be no students here January and February, or December for that matter. Right when Thanksgiving comes, students are going to be sent home, I guess, and the beginning of second semester will be distance. So that means 2 months of a lot fewer people in Bloomington than normally, and IU will obviously have most of its stuff shut down. So has that already figured into the 2021 budget? And
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's actually a very low demand portion of the year to begin with. Plus, we're already in that situation for a month of that time, anyhow, with Thanksgiving and the Christmas break. So, yeah, but it's been accounted for by looking at what happened this spring.
Okay. It still seems like a lot of uncertainty because they could extend that period of time. They could.
It could go home in October. We don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why we tried to have a very conservative budget.
Yeah, good.
And one of the things, and I guess it's a wild card for us, is that a substantial portion of our budget every year is the extensions and replacement budget. So if revenues fall short of what we are estimating, what that means is it becomes a cash flow management question of just delaying projects that we might have had in the capital improvement plan. So CIP items may be delayed if we find ourselves far short of the revenue estimates, but there's enough money in the CIP portion of the budget to handle a substantial downturn beyond what we're estimating. It would just mean projects would get delayed.
Right.
So
And we can also take steps to make those projects maybe be more affordable. Maybe we'll do more of the water main replacement in-house rather than hiring contractors and those kinds of things.
So does this give us any insight into what it might be like if we really did a successful water conservation program?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
we've known all along that water conservation, has a good side, but it also has a really hard side when it comes to all the fixed costs of supplying water. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a good lesson we'll learn.
Well, one of the lessons, the unintended consequences of all this is that when we were on shutdown for 10 weeks there and we had virtually no one in the office, our paper consumption for printing fell by more than 50%. And so the question that we're asking now is, okay, how do we keep doing that? How do we keep using less paper? This whole this entire ordeal is an opportunity for us to improve ourselves and identify processes that we can do better.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. So does that mean we move on to the next item?
Well, can I just, you mentioned, as we go forward with this, we weren't expecting to have a vote today. We were expecting to have to present this to the subcommittee, to give you a couple of weeks to look at it. And then when we come back, we would be asking for another subcommittee meeting at 4:30 or 4:45 on the day we present to the board, so that and then have the subcommittee vote be at that time. And so what we have here is a couple of weeks for you to digest and make suggestions and ask additional questions of us before we go to that. Amanda was raising her hand.
Latrina, was this sent to everybody on the board or just to the finance committee?
Everyone received it.
Great. So they have an opportunity for some input if they have questions as well.
Right, you got it.
Great, thanks.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan. And I assume we'll get any updated changes to the budget.
Yep.
And I believe there's an item for communications from the public. Is that correct? I'm trying to remember the agenda.
Holly, is there? I know we're on Facebook Live.
Are there any questions or comments from anyone watching? Seeing none, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned, and thank you all for attending.